Good evening, everyone. My name is Randy Baldwin, and I'll be your MC tonight. I'm the Vice Chair of Mancia Board. I'd like to introduce Mancia. Our mission is promotion of renewable and sustainable energy. Mancia is made up of a small group of dedicated volunteers who began the association about 10 years ago now. We're always looking for new directors to join our board. So if you're interested after this evening session or after the next two sessions, which will be the next two Tuesday nights, please contact myself or Wayne Digby, Wayne Clayton, or any other board members. You can learn more about us on the Mancia website, which is mancia, MANSEA.org. Just click on more and then about us. And this is the website that you went to register for this evening's session. Mancia works closely with other like-minded organizations, including the Manitoba Environmental Industries Association, or MEA, Manitoba Electric Vehicles Association, or MEVA, the Manitoba Geothermal Alliance, and the Sustainable Buildings Manitoba. We'd like to acknowledge MEA's involvement with Mancia as a supporting partner. MEA partnered with Mancia to present a series of webinars this past year and to launch these conference sessions that we're having tonight and the next 2 weeks. Sarah Neal is MEA's Office and Finance Administrator and is our webmaster, helping us to keep on track this evening. Jack Winram, MEA's Executive Director and a member of the Mancia Board, will join us later to discuss MEA's ongoing support to and collaboration with Mancia. Jack will return later to moderate the Q&A session after our 3 presentations this evening. Thanks to our supporting sponsors, MEA, our platinum sponsors, Evolve Green and Golden West Communications, and our gold sponsors, Access Credit Union, Manitoba Hydro, Efficiency Manitoba, and Powertec Solar. We'd like to acknowledge that Evolve Green and Efficiency Manitoba are our key sponsors for this evening's presentation. Please select the side-by-side view. You'll find the view settings in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. That'll be the best setting to see both what's on the screen and the presenters as well. The topics for this evening are all things solar, from installation to power storage to energy planning and public perceptions of energy strategy development in Manitoba. It'll include discussions of how to design a solar system to get the best ROI, and some of the current rebate and loan programs that are available to support different types of renewable energy installations. There'll be a time for Q&A following all 3 presentations. Please submit your questions anytime during our presentation using the Q&A function, which you'll find at the bottom of your screen. We'll do our best to answer all of them during the Q&A session at the end. Now I'd like to introduce our speakers from Powertec Solar and Powertec Electric, Jacob Kettner and Daniel Lacovetsky, co-founders of Powertec. Jacob is passionate about the environment, clean energy, and solar. He co-founded Powertec Solar in 2016 with his prime focus on marketing, raising awareness for solar opportunities that have strong economic as well as environmental cases for community, business, and individuals. Daniel is a journeyman electrician by trade. He is a co-owner and co-founder of Powertec Electric and Powertec Solar. He's an environmentalist by heart and a renewable energy and electric vehicle enthusiast. He's grown both companies with that focus in mind. Jason and Daniel will focus on overcoming barriers to growing solar usage in Manitoba. Please share your screens now, gentlemen, and audience members, again, please submit your questions using the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. Take it away, Daniel.
All right, thanks. So Jacob's going to do the control for me here on the presentation, and I'll just talk about the slides a little bit. So first off, this presentation here is from the perspective of solar contracting business. We realize there's probably a lot of people on this call with different industry associations and likely different viewpoints. So this is strictly just from our perspective of what barriers we see as a contracting business to growing our solar market. So Jake, if you wouldn't mind, next slide, please. Yeah, so again, here's some of the positives, why we think solar makes sense. Obviously, it's a clean energy source. When you look at solar over its lifetime of 30 years, it produces some of the cheapest kilowatt hours you can get, cheaper than hydro, cheaper than nuclear, cheaper than basically any source out there. So it seems like a no-brainer in that sense. Obviously, low environmental impact and reducing dependencies on other energy providers, namely locally, at least Manitoba Hydro. So next slide, please. Yeah, and as for Manitoba's capacity for solar, I'm sure most of you have seen this map before, but this is a solar irradiance map of the country. And if you can see the rest of the country in there, there's a big swath of orange across the bottom of Saskatchewan that stretches right into Manitoba. So the southwest corner of our province is some of the best and sunniest, most sun hours for solar irradiation, and a great place to install solar. So we really do have this untapped renewable resource sitting in the southwest corner of our province, ready for installation of solar panels. Next slide, please. This I found to be fairly interesting. We pulled this information right off Manitoba Hydro's website. And so it says currently they have 20 megawatts of installed solar capacity. And I'm sure there's people on here that probably know whether that number is up to date or not. But it strikes me as interesting that the rebate program had about 57 megawatts, I believe, of approved applications. And it looks to me like a lot of that never got installed. So there was a lot of decision making that went on around what was going to happen if 57 megawatts of solar went in, and it looks to me like a lot of that was never realized into actual installs. The capacity of the solar systems under that rebate program, which is when most of the solar went in Manitoba, 200 kilowatts was the limit before you were needing a power purchase agreement, and it was also the maximum rebate. So we ended up with a lot of systems 200 kilowatts and under. And of course, Manitoba Hydro is also a renewable resource. So we use almost exclusively renewable energy in Manitoba as it stands. Go ahead, next slide, please. So yeah, a little bit about solar programs in Manitoba. I think Lorena is going to get a bit more into current stuff, but we did have a solar pilot program here and ended in 2018 that provided $1 a watt up to 100 or 200 kilowatts. That was a very generous program, pretty much the most generous program in the country. I think there's a couple others that have started at $1 a watt and ratcheted down since then. One of the big issues with, and this is going to be a reoccurring theme in this short presentation, is the excess generation rate. So what you get paid for your solar electricity. Currently that sits at 2.9 cents a kilowatt hour, which not a very good rate of return on a solar system as it stands in Manitoba now. So right now, Efficiency Manitoba doesn't currently have any solar incentives. We believe that's going to change. They were supposed to provide something by 2022, so we're hoping that comes soon, and hopefully we can get something changed with this excess generation rate here, and possibly get a better buyback on that. So next slide as well, please.
Just to clarify, the 2.9 cents is on excess power generated beyond what can be used directly off the array. So you can still offset your bills at retail rates, but only if you're using everything that comes off the array, which we'll get into in a little bit.
Yeah, so comparing provincial solar programs. So this was taken from Energy Hub, which actually is a great resource. If anybody hasn't checked it out, they are a really good resource for solar in Canada. It actually ranks Manitoba 9th place. As somebody in the industry, I would say that Saskatchewan and Nunavut are definitely above Manitoba in value of solar. Both of them have at least, like Saskatchewan has a 7.5 cent buyback rate, which is more than double what ours is. As well, in Saskatchewan, you're offsetting natural gas generation. Nunavut, you're offsetting diesel, and they have 10 kilowatt net metering program up there. So both of those are actually higher up. So we're really, really low on value for solar installed in Manitoba. Next slide. Solar incentives by province. So Manitoba, currently no solar incentive. We're hoping some people on this call, this maybe lights a fire under their butt to get one out for us. We'll see what happens. But yeah, again, we used to have a $1 a watt rebate until it was canceled in 2018 under the pilot program. It was a great program. I would say maybe possibly even a little too good. One concern with that program was that it was so generous that it invited a bunch of people into the province to take advantage of it. And after the program disappeared, so did they. And so you've got a lot of customers that ended up with contractors with warranties that are no longer here or no longer able to service the clients. So that is an issue with the program. And we think if anything came back, it should be a more modest program that maybe would allow for the creation of an industry within Manitoba, but not be so attractive that it's going to attract people from all over the country to try and take advantage of it. Varying degrees of energy efficiency incentives across provinces for sure. Right now, solar is really hot in Nova Scotia. They've got a good program. The Maritimes has a pretty good program. The strongest solar market has really always been Ontario, but Alberta and Ontario right now have really good programs. Alberta has some other reasons for that, but as well, they have rebate programs there. So Manitoba, we're definitely lagging there. As you can see, we're close to last. Next slide, please. Utilities by province. Well, for a solar company, this is a bad one, but for the rest of you guys, this is a good one. We have very low rates in Manitoba. Unfortunately, when you're calculating buyback and offsetting electricity, low rates increase your rate of return substantially. So, Manitoba, not only are we offsetting, 9.5 to 10 cent power, as opposed to, in some places up to, as you see at the bottom, 38 cents a kilowatt hour. So if you can offset 38 cents a kilowatt hour, well, your return is going to be a lot, basically 4 times as fast as offsetting 10 cents a kilowatt hour. So yeah, some issues there as well. And of course that comes up again, that 2.9 cents is really a struggle when doing net metering or any sort of grid tied system where you're going to put back on the grid. So next slide, please.
Just to jump in there for a sec, Daniel, I think what makes it really challenging is even being able to calculate what that return payback period is going to be. Not knowing for sure how much power is going to be used offsetting 9 cent power and how much power you're going to get paid out 2.9 cents for.
Absolutely. That's a good point. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, next slide.
Looking at it. Oh, no.
Is this the next one? No, I don't think so. Didn't change on my screen.
There you go.
Oh, that's it?
Yep.
Okay, electrical. Didn't we just talk about electrical pricing? Next slide. Let's see the next one. So financing. Manitoba is actually a fairly good place to finance solar. We have the Earth Power loan available from Manitoba Hydro. Manitoba Hydro actually offers a lot of on-bill financing programs. Really easy to apply for, and really for what it is, they're fairly competitive rates. That's one advantage that we had. During the solar program, we had a number of customers take us up on that option. There is something called property assessed clean energy financing, which it works more like equity line of credit for solar, and that is unavailable in Manitoba, from what we understand, and that one would be a great option if we could get something like that working around here for us. Next slide, please. Yeah, again, this is going to come up a lot here. So that 2.9%, 2.9 cent buyback rate is a real struggle for us. It results in return on investment anywhere from 19 to 25 years in a lot of cases. There's also extra fees for interconnection studies and bidirectional meters. Lack of a small residential net metering program. That's something that a lot of provinces have. So, you know, with offering a 10 kilowatt and under net metering program, the net impact on, you know, it's not going to make the solar so attractive that everybody's going to go get a 10 kilowatt system, but it'll make it attractive enough that, you know, there would be a small industry within Manitoba that could sustain itself, you know, and you might get, you know, 10 or 15 people a year that, you know, you can go install for, and really would not make very much difference on Manitoba Hydro's bottom line. As somebody who has a 10 kilowatt system on their roof, you know, the amount that I actually put back onto the grid, I have a fairly high load in my house, but the amount that I actually put back onto the grid is very small. So, you know, we would be talking, you know, less than $100 a year difference between this and, you know, so, but being able to quantify a return on investment is very important, and a net metering program allows you to do that. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
There's just a question that popped up here asking if you could just go into a little bit more detail on what is a net metering program. What would that mean?
Oh yeah, so essentially a net metering program is basically using the grid as storage, sort of figuratively speaking. What it would mean is that you could take your annual production over a year and average that out. So you're going to produce your solar in the summer. You're going to buy your hydro in the winter. So you're going to build up the credits to use all summer long because you're going to overproduce, and then you're going to use those credits in the winter to lower your bill, right? So you're going to, essentially it would allow you to store any credit at what you're paying for power. So if you're paying 10 cents a kilowatt and you generate an extra kilowatt, you get an extra 10 cents that you can later use for credit on your bill. So essentially it's a one-for-one payback, but net metering also doesn't allow you. So currently we have bidirectional metering in Manitoba. So that means if you generate excess, you actually, you know, there is not really that limit with net metering. It's limited at what you, like you're not getting money back, you're getting credits to your bill. So if after the year is over and you've overproduced for the year, those credits go to the utility. So you're not, there's no financial incentive to overproduce, right? So it's strictly load displacement. So yeah, go ahead, next slide. Yeah, so this one, again, because Manitoba Hydro is the sole supplier of electricity in Manitoba, and also the people who deal with all the regulations around non-utility generation. They are really the ones holding most of the cards here. But again, that net metering program comes up. In lieu of that, even better buyback rates, looking at something like Saskatchewan with a 7.5 cent buyback rate, you know, would be hugely advantageous for, you know, even just if it was small residential customers. Some sort of carbon tax credits, tax benefits for homeowners who have renewable energy installed would be fantastic. And then again, if the guys at Efficiency Manitoba introduce an incentive program, we believe that will spark the industry a little more. Next slide.
There are some federal tax credits available for commercial applications, or not tax credits, but accelerated depreciation. But not at a residential scale, and not at the province level right now.
Yeah, and there's a picture of a beautiful system. This one's actually facing due east. It's on my house, and I couldn't turn the house, so I had to put it that way. So that's just the way it is. Again, battery backup systems would be a possible technical solution. You know, I love batteries. I love battery systems. As a techie who loves solar energy and renewables and technology. It's great. As somebody looking for, a way to use their own power and make it financially viable, batteries are quite an expensive purchase. I purchased some batteries for this system actually, and it actually doubled the cost of the system, just to give you an idea of what you're looking about in costs. So
just
again,
to interrupt you for a sec there. So the benefit to the batteries, they do have quite an upfront cost, but that cost we could see coming down in the future. And the benefit is that it would normalize your usage. So if you're, not summer to winter, but if you're generating power during the day and then using it at night, instead of feeding that power back and selling it for 2.9 cents and then buying it back in the evening for 9 cents, the batteries can help normalize that so that your excess generation goes into your battery bank and you're not feeding it back to the grid at for 30 cents on the dollar. That would be the benefit there.
For sure. But, point being, and they're very popular in the States and places with different tiered power rates, time of use rates, higher energy rates. Like the more complex the rate structure, the more batteries make sense. Manitoba Hydro has a very simple rate structure. Even their demand charges are very simple compared to other places. And so really, your power costs the same all the time. So it doesn't really make sense. Like that's where batteries are really gaining value on the grid, is where, they have a whole bunch of different tiered rate structures and different fees and tariffs and stuff like that. So Manitoba will be very late to adopt battery systems wide scale. You're seeing them places like Ontario, Texas, New York, places like that. California has lots. Manitoba, it'll be a while before they're financially viable on a large scale here. Mm-hmm. Off-grid systems, of course, if you can take something off the grid, you're not, there's no longer any regulation on what you can buy back or what power goes back on, because you're not selling anything. So off-grid systems are always a good option, and sometimes they're the only option. If you're, if it's going to cost you $200,000 to get power to where you're going, you might as well pay $100,000, power it with solar, and never have to pay a bill. So commercial and industrial systems, again, just because of the load profile of some of those places, we're looking at a manufacturing plant right now. They're there all day working hard, and the machines are going. The solar is going to turn on at the same time that the plant is in operation. Sometimes those systems can really limit what you're putting back on the grid and still be financially viable. And again, undersizing a system. So if you have a residential customer who really wants solar, but they don't want to deal with a low buyback rate, a technical solution with that would be, so if I use quite a bit of power and don't put much back on the grid here on this system on the screen right now. So if I took half those panels off, I would never put anything back on the grid. The solar system would pretty much be below my base load. So that's one way to satisfy that issue. So next slide.
Just while this picture's up of your low slope roof there, Daniel, there's Don's asking about snow clearing on rooftop installations.
Yeah, I get up there with a ladder and I sweep them. No, I don't. The slow, especially in the winter. So the sun is coming way from the south here in the winter. The actual solar irradiance that I'm missing out on is maybe 7 to 10% of my annual production while they're covered in snow. Because if you can imagine, even if the snow is not on them, the sun's going to be hitting them at such a low angle for such a short period of time because of those short days, that really it's not worth the effort to get up and sweep them off. Like the really snowy cold months, you get maybe on a south-facing system, you get 10 to 15%. I probably get 5% of my production on those months, so if that. So go ahead. Okay, next slide. Yeah, this is our team here. So a little bit about us. We are also an electrical contracting company. We have renewable focus, sustainability focus, a big EV charging. We do a lot of that. We're going to be working with Eco West to provide a whole bunch of charge point stations to a bunch of local municipalities coming up fairly quickly. We're really happy about that. So, the focus of our company is really sustainability. We want to promote technologies that make Manitoba a better place, and a lot of that is through environmental causes. So, next slide. And it's a little photo of some of the recent installs that we've done. Some of the stuff, this is up in the top there. You can see that's a pretty typical 200 kilowatt farm install. There's a lot of these in the province. Farmers were a huge consumer of that rebate program. They're all electric heat and had astronomical utility bills, high capital costs on the farm. And, you know, when you're talking about buying a $500,000 combine, putting a piece of renewable energy on your property doesn't seem like that much of a you know, stretch if you're going to get a $200,000 rebate on it. So that was well received by agriculture. And then we've got some storage facilities below there that they also really took to the solar panels, and some remote off-grid there powering some communication towers in the bottom corner there. Anyways, next slide. Yeah, so in summary, you know, the $1 watt pilot program was really great, but since then, Manitoba, since that ended, Manitoba's become a very difficult place to sell and install solar. Not to say that we're not doing it. I mean, we still have some solar on the books and we're still putting it up in Manitoba. We have had to, you know, start looking at neighboring provinces as well. And so really the bulk of our work is in Saskatchewan and Ontario and a little bit up north. So yeah, so as far as Manitoba being the third best potential for solar in the country, really we do have an untapped natural resource, and it would be prudent of us to find a way to get that resource to market, just like we are with our rivers. So yeah, and again, we've talked about those solutions to promoting solar in Manitoba. Really, the net metering and the buyback rate are two big struggles for us as contractors, and we understand there's a lot more to the issue than just what we want. But you know, we think that those two things could be addressed in a responsible manner that wouldn't, you know, break the bank over at Hydro, and just getting the willingness for them to come to the table on it would be a great thing to see happen. And next slide. Oh, that's the end. So we're done. So I guess Q&A happens after the fact. So you know, if somebody wants to maybe keep those questions, and we can do them at the round table there. We can, or I can take them now. I don't know, what are we doing there?
Thanks very much, Jacob and Daniel.
Okay.
We've got a lot of really good questions have come in, but because we're running pretty much right on schedule, I think we'll defer those questions, and Jack will moderate the Q&A session after the third presentation. Thank you very much, fellas, and I'd like to introduce now Kate Robb. Kate is a grad student from the University of Winnipeg. She completed a Bachelor of Arts degree in Environmental Studies with a minor in Political Science at the U of W in 2018. She's now in her second year of a master's program in Development Practice, also at the University of Winnipeg. She has previously done research on community energy planning in Churchill, and also currently researching public involvement in water power licensing and legislation. She's a research assistant with the Community Appropriate Sustainable Energy Security, or CASES, partnership, through which she is currently working on an article about energy strategies and the way in which public perceptions and priorities can inform their development. She hopes to pursue a career in sustainable energy or resource management policy. Kate's topic is planning for 2030 and beyond, public perceptions of energy strategy development in Manitoba. Kate, if you can share your screen, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you, Daniel and Jacob, for your presentation. It was very informative. So as mentioned, my name is Kate and I'm a graduate student at the University of Winnipeg. And I would just like to begin my presentation by acknowledging that I'm joining you all today from Treaty 1 territory, the territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Dakota, Dene, and Oji-Cree peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. So today I'll be presenting some research that's been done over the past year or so regarding public perceptions of energy strategy development in Manitoba. And my co-authors on this work are Dr. Patricia Fitzpatrick from the University of Winnipeg and Gloria DeSorsi from the Manitoba branch of the Consumers Association of Canada. So the purpose of this research was to gain insight into the needs and priorities of Manitobans regarding the future of energy in the province in order to demonstrate the value and importance of public participation in the development of a provincial energy strategy. Public participation in energy planning can lead to a holistic and comprehensive plan that reflects the needs and priorities of a variety of actors and is more widely accepted and effective in the long run versus a plan developed solely by government agencies. So data collection for this research employed two methods. The first one was an independent random survey of 1,000 people across the province, and then an interactive public workshop. The public survey was conducted by Prairie Research Associates, a standard public opinion polling firm here in Manitoba. Through an online panel, PRA surveyed 1,000 Manitobans during a 4-day period in February 2020. Manitobans were asked questions on the topics of energy production, electricity rates, future energy use, and cost to changes of energy use. This included questions about Manitobans' personal energy use, as well as their opinions on energy at the provincial level. Some examples of some of the survey questions are seen on the slide there. PRA weighted the data by age, gender, and region to ensure that it was representative of the provincial population. In early March of 2020, we hosted a free public workshop at the University of Winnipeg with the goal of initiating a discussion amongst Manitobans about the energy in the province. Fortunately, this event was right before COVID, so we were able to have it in person, which was really great. The workshop consisted of 2 sessions, each including presentations from a panel of speakers, opportunity for questions and answers, and an audience-focused workshop. The first panel was designed to provide expertise on the bigger picture of energy, both in Canada and internationally, while the second panel was designed to focus on the Manitoba context. The workshops were designed to initiate discussion amongst and to hear from participants about the strengths and weaknesses of Manitoba's current energy system, as well as important aspects to frame an energy strategy for the province. Some examples from the workshop sessions are also seen on the slide here. Analysis of the data was based on 3 sources: the panel presentations, the workshop sessions, and the survey. Through a grounded approach, the data from all 3 sources was coded for common themes using in vivo 12. And the results that I'll be discussing today are the top 4 most frequent themes that arose during the data analysis. And these results are also found in our event report that is available online. So the top 4 themes within the data are diversification, decentralization, legislative and policy barriers, and equity. Essential to energy security, diversification refers to having a portfolio that consists of multiple different energy sources rather than relying solely on one. So as you can see in figure 1 there, 97% of Manitoba's electricity comes from hydro, and figure 2 shows that heating in the province consists primarily of natural gas, followed closely by hydro. There are also 4 remote off-grid communities in northern Manitoba who rely on diesel fuel as their primary energy source. The need to diversify Manitoba's energy portfolio with more renewable sources was identified as a priority for Manitobans. In framing an energy strategy for Manitoba, the promotion of alternative energy sources is an important aspect to be included, with more importance being placed on sources such as solar, wind, and geothermal. Several opportunities to increase the use of renewable energy sources and examples of existing small-scale diversification initiatives in the province were discussed during the workshop. Now moving on to decentralization, this concept refers to changes to the structure of the energy sector towards a multi-actor setup where large utilities interact with self-producing consumers and mini utilities. Through decentralization, the government's role shifts away from an energy provider to an energy access facilitator. A decentralized system allows for community-level renewable energy producers to generate, distribute, and then sell back to the grid. Our results did not indicate that people were interested in the privatization of Manitoba Hydro, but rather that they want increased opportunities for local control over energy production, where they're able to produce their own energy and easily connect to the provincial grid system. This includes opportunities for community ownership through co-op models, addressing the idea of energy sovereignty, as well as the importance of Indigenous owned and operated energy projects. While Manitobans want diversification and decentralization of the provincial energy system, there are both legislative and policy barriers that pose challenges for such initiatives. The main barrier identified in this research concerns the centralized monopoly model of Manitoba Hydro. The single supplier system is inflexible and limits entry of community scale energy projects into the system. Additionally, the centralized system limits the ability to adapt to new renewable technologies without financial consequences to the existing hydro system. Other legislative and policy barriers identified include the lack of environmental assessment for hydro projects under the Water Power Act, permitting and inspection processes that have not been updated to reflect renewable energy sources, and an overall disconnect between policymakers and what's happening on the ground in terms of changes to the energy sector. The fourth most frequent theme identified in this research is equity. Currently, the price per kilowatt hour of electricity is much lower in Manitoba compared to other provinces, as you can see on the table there. However, Northern residents, primarily First Nations living on reserve, pay much higher amounts on their electricity bills compared to those living in southern urban centers. And this is due to drastic differences in consumption as a result of the colder climate up north, as well as differences in housing efficiency. This issue of inequity goes much deeper than cost, as Manitoba's hydroelectric system has numerous historic and ongoing effects on both the environment and First Nations in the north. These effects include the destruction of land, cultural sites, wildlife habitats, and local economies, among many others. There's a need for a shift in framework for how Manitoba Hydro engages with Indigenous communities towards an approach that centers relationships and the use of renewable energy in a way that benefits everyone in an equitable way. Furthermore, an energy strategy must include a variety of subsidies and financial incentive programs that assist both large and small scale renewable energy projects in entering the provincial market. This research has outlined priorities and concerns of Manitobans, which should be considered in the development of a provincial energy strategy, demonstrating the value of public participation in the planning process. The timing of this research is critical, as there's a lot going on right now in Manitoba related to energy. First of all, the provincial government has tasked the Minister of Crown Services, who is responsible for Manitoba Hydro, and the Minister of Conservation and Climate with developing a new energy strategy for the province. Assigning this task to the minister responsible for the Crown Corporation is somewhat problematic, as while Manitoba Hydro is responsible for electricity and natural gas, it does not provide propane or fuels adopted for the transportation sector. We've heard through the grapevine that they have begun working on the strategy, although we have yet to see any announcement of any type of public engagement programs. We did send them a copy of our report and offered to meet with them, but we have not heard back. Another important issue facing Manitoba is Bill 35, which is currently being pushed through the legislature, although the NDP has recently stated that they plan to block it. This bill will greatly limit the power of the Public Utilities Board, reducing public involvement in provincial energy processes. There's lots of literature from different sectors about the issues with Bill 35, and we're part of an active effort to bring evidence-based research to the provincial government about why it doesn't meet the expectations of Manitobans from any political affiliation or demographic location. There are some more positive and exciting things happening related to energy in Manitoba, one of which is the CASES project, which is led by the University of Saskatchewan. The CASES project is working with 2 communities in northern Manitoba to map out their current energy patterns as part of a longer-term project to empower resilience and community control over energy security in the north. Looking more broadly, it's an exciting time in the renewable energy sector in Canada, as Natural Resources Canada is funding a lot of projects, including those with an emphasis on hydrogen. So there's lots of opportunities that are there to be taken advantage of. To conclude, we know that the public wants to be involved in the future of energy in the province, and our research has outlined some of the priorities and concerns of Manitobans, which should be considered in the development of a provincial energy strategy. As the province moves forward with developing an energy strategy, they must ensure that the public is able to participate in a meaningful way in order to develop a holistic and comprehensive strategy for Manitoba. I would just like to end by thanking my co-authors, Dr. Fitzpatrick and Gloria DeSorcy, the Community Appropriate Sustainable Energy Security Partnership, the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council, the University of Winnipeg, the Public Interest Law Centre, and the Consumers Association of Canada for their generous funding and support. Additionally, I'm also grateful for the workshop participants, presenters, and volunteers for their time and contributions to this research. And thank you to Mansia for the opportunity to present this evening, and thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Kate. You presented a lot of very good information in a very short and concise package there. Both Kate as well as Daniel and Jacob will be back for the Q&A session, which will happen after Lorena gives her presentation, which is up next. Lorena is president and owner of Evolve Green and a director on the Mansia board. She has 13 years of experience in renewable energy industry. She's a host of Evolution Greenworks at MBNS TV. And among other activities, she's a fundraising chair for the 307 Air Cadets. Lorena is extremely passionate about the environment and working from many angles to achieve a positive outcome. Lorena's presentation will be on how to design solar for the best ROI, and also a discussion of current rebate and loan programs available in Manitoba. Lorena and Evolve Green are a key sponsor of tonight's event. And Lorena, if you could share your screen, I'll turn it over to you.
Why go solar? Solar is better than ever. Our revolutionary design and inverter equipment with the latest in solar panel technology for the ultimate in-home and business security. That's right, I said security. Grid security and security of your home are linked. Fortify your future today with a battery backup system. No maintenance, quiet running. Did you know in Manitoba, grid-connected, off-grid, and battery backup systems are 100% right off in the year you purchase for any company or farm? Do you want to back up your internet, keep your tills running, and the lights on? We can install a system that is right for you with battery backup fully capable of taking on all those essential loads and keeping you running. When you call our experts at Evolve Green, ask about getting your free energy audit today. Call or email today to find out what system works best for you. 1-866-5EVOLVE or support@evolvegreen.ca. Also, be sure to check out our website at www.evolvegreen.ca.
I'm going to attempt to share my screen again. Thank you very much. That was actually our help there over at Mia. She put up that. Welcome to Mancia 2021. It has been very exciting to take part. What I wanted to talk about today was simply how do we do this? How do we get to, oh, I see there's a screen sharing problem here.
No, you're okay, Lorena. We're seeing your screen.
No, it wasn't at the beginning though. There we go.
Okay.
Sorry, I resolved it. I've just started learning how to screen share, so everybody just bear with me for a second here. So I'm Lorena, and what we need to do in order to increase the return for investment on our systems, whether that be residential or commercial, is we want to look at really taking the top load off. So what are we talking about? Well, during the day, you have all the time loads that are running always, right? So let's say, that's 3 kilowatts an hour. We want the solar system to capture those, and it prevents you from buying from Manitoba Hydro. That is the biggest piece. If we can prevent you from buying, then we have the same return for investment that we did 3 years ago with the program and the people who got contracts. So what we need to do is not net zero anymore. So let's say you have a gas heat home, a 1,200 square foot gas heat home. The average size solar system is going to be 4 to 5 kilowatt to give you a 50% or less offset. And that is going to be a return for investment anywhere from that 12 years to 14 years, depending on the type of system you've gone with. What a lot of people are now doing also is they're getting a type of inverter where they can have their battery system right away. So what we've done is we've fortified your energy in the respect that some people now they have CPAP machines and all these different reasons why they need to have power, whether it be for communications, their home business now. A lot of people are working from home. If we're talking about a small company, we're talking about keeping that till running. We're talking about keeping the internet connected and the primary lights on, gas pumps running. We can do all that with those battery backup systems if the grid were to go down, as we saw just about a year and a half ago. So not very long ago in Manitoba, places like, in some places we lost power for up to a week in, late September, early October. So the businesses, if they're able to keep going, it can actually support the community. So it's a really good prospect to add in the storage systems, reduce the size of the solar system so we're capturing all the time loads, and then our ROI goes down. For a company or a farm particularly, you're looking at an ROI between 9 and 12 years. If you're adding in storage systems, that's going to increase a little bit, but of course then you end up with a situation of having fortified energy, which can keep you running. So some farming installs have very critical things that cannot go down. So for them, it's certainly something that they need to look at to see if this is right for them. Renewable energy without a storage system installed in Manitoba in most places is going to be roughly, if you consider the cost of your plant, is going to be about 7 cents a kilowatt. So it's already cheaper than hydro at this point. So, but you're putting your upfront cost into your solar system. So that capital cost, right? But over the lifespan of this system, it's already at 7 cents a kilowatt. So with hydro increasing yearly, which it needs to do, right now they're actually being held back to what it actually should be. If you look just across the border in Saskatchewan, it's actually 14.22 cents per kilowatt. And after taxes here is what, just under 10 cents a kilowatt, like to keep it round. We can also install inverters that don't sell to the grid. So they have a feature where we can select where we're assisting your panel while that is going on, and then it'll just ramp down your solar. So that's even without a storage system. We don't have to sell to the grid to provide energy to your panel. Because really selling at, I'm going to round it up to 3 cents a kilowatt. It does change yearly, that particular amount. So we don't want you to give away power. I would love to see a net meter program come into Manitoba. I'm just saying, with a net meter program, it's not a cash value. So for small residential projects, it's ideal where they can just have the credit. So anything that's sold, it's like a 1-for-1 or something of that nature credit. A lot of provinces currently have that in place. So I would like to see that for small residential. So next, I'd just like to say that we do actually have rebate programs available in Manitoba. It's a well-kept secret, unfortunately. So what I wanted to talk more about is Efficiency Manitoba currently does offer 2 streams. And actually, I just had a great interview with Allison Lund from Efficiency Manitoba the other day on Evolution Greenworks, where she goes into great detail about that. You can get 2 different streams when you build a home. So one of them's pretty simple. It's $1,200. There's a list of stuff that you need to incorporate in this home to make your home more energy efficient, which is a great way. You want to put some work into it, but you don't want to go into kind of their bigger programs. So with the next stream, actually solar is included. So up to $12,000 you can get back in rebates. It does involve getting energy audit. You have to start this process before you start building the home. And they would basically let you know right on the front end what percentage you're looking at for your rebate, and you can make a more informed decision. Geo Robson over at prairiehouse.ca can do the audit system for you. And then what happens is you start to gain a better understanding. If you add more insulation, if you change those windows, if you add geothermal or a heat pump or solar on the roof, whether you've done more of a passive solar design or what have you, they'll be able to actually show you fairly real world numbers on how much is this home going to use an energy, and then you're going to get a rebate based on that, which is pretty exciting. So the design with the energy efficiency program, you want to start that right away. You can get in touch with Energy Manitoba Efficiency, Allison Lund, and she can help you start that process. The contractor and or in a lot of cases, people are doing their own contracting or partial. So then they would be the ones to get in contact with Efficiency Manitoba. So here's that second stream. Just to give you an idea, this is pulled right from one of Efficiency Manitoba's own documents. We have the prescriptive path. Again, this is the one where we're just going to be doing the basic. There's a list of stuff. They give you an easy to follow that you incorporate low blow. So only LED lights can go in this home and all of these things. And this is what you would get back. You also get an energy rating on your home, which I should mention. If you go into the next path, which is performance, and you're going to get a energy audit, which is required. And as you can see, the energy modeling rebate, there is a secondary piece that goes for that. So what happens once you get that is your home, once you get an energy audit, is going to have a rating. So if you're reselling this home down the road, you'll be able to prove what energy rating you have on this home. So it does vote to the resale. It does matter. So you not only get the rebate, you would get that as well. So very exciting with the new home build program, which is actually, it's been in place, I think, about 4 years. So it actually isn't new, but they have now moved over from Manitoba Hydro into the Efficiency Manitoba. And so that's how you would get in contact with them. So that's very exciting. I did want to touch on the loan programs again. So Manitoba Hydro does still offer up to $20,000 in loans. Now, this does not cover currently any of the storage systems. It's based on $3 per DC watt currently. They may be changing how this looks in the coming near future. So if you're adding in storage systems, like, it's not going to cover the whole loan, right? It's only going to cover portions of the loan. So it's very important to note that. But there is actually also commercial leasing programs out there for companies and farms for up to 10 years for solar systems. And that doesn't matter if it is storage and or grid connected solar. So next, I also wanted to talk about if you're going to be building a home, or, a lot of people ask, like, what is the cost of this? Jim Nostad over at CFR, what he does is he takes what is the traditional cost. Here's a 1,200 square foot home. This home actually was built by Sun Certified with Evan Proven at the cooperative. And so they built this passive home. And you can see that a regular code built home is going to be $275,000. A passive home is $324,000 for this home. So the extra investment piece is $49,000. So this is what we know. So now we need to look at, are you going to get a rebate back? Of course you are. So that would bring down that number a little bit. In this document, you can see it's talking about the GHG. Now, what is that? That's the carbon footprint, the carbon emission. So everything that this house uses and, over the course of time, and they're using 60 years in this case. And so they're talking about 60 years is the lifespan, they're going to say, of this home, let's say, and what they're comparing it to. So, you've got quite a high difference. The high performance house is going to have 0 versus the code built home, which is 247,000 kilograms of GHG. So that's pretty significant. And if you look at even when we're talking about the kilowatt hours per squared meter, so are you even looking at such a huge difference here? So the cost of running this home is going to be exponentially less for this performance built home. So this, if you look at it, you've got almost $960,000. That's a lot of money. So the code built home is going to cost in the long run, as you can see, a lot more money compared to the high performance home, which is expected to only cost $624,000. So it's really, really important to look at all of the different avenues when you're deciding on what to do for your home. If you already have a home, really you need to look at first what's going on with your home. So sometimes it is cheaper to add more insulation and upgrade, the windows and do some of these things to seal up your home and get a better envelope, depending on the age of the home. Uh, you know, Integrating a different type of heating system, a heat pump or a wood boiler. I mean, it really just depends where you live as to what technology is going to be best. But what I can tell you is renewable energy works best together. And incorporating multiple different tactics is going to be really the best outcome. And you want to always look at what is your return for investment, because ultimately it may be your home or your business or something that you're building. It is still an investment. So I always entreat that we do this environmentally sound. And as we can see, if you look over the course of time, it is environmentally sound in order to do that. Now, we're talking about a residential home. I'm sure you want to see this on the bigger scale. What does that look like? So here we're going to look at the cost of a different kind of building. Now these numbers go up exponentially. So when you're looking at the cost to build in a high performance manner, you're looking at $58.6 million on this facility. The code built is 57.9 million. So it's not actually that much difference, right? So, but with solar, it would be 60.7 million. But now I want you to look at the cost savings. So the cost savings are really what changes this. And I can't see my whole screen, so I'm not going to quote the numbers. I did read them earlier. But what is important is how much you're saving over the course of 60 years, because the cost of the building actually can outdo you, especially with, you have to imagine everything always goes up. You have building maintenance costs. So if you build it better, if you build it more sound and you build it more ready for our Manitoba environment, which is unique as in we get extremely hot and we also get extremely cold, we need to have a building, whether it be a home or a regular building, that can withstand not only can it withstand the weather, but also the energy needs of the building. Thermal loading is an amazing thing that you can utilize just by making thicker walls. You've created more area to thermal load, where that's holding cold for the summer or holding heat for the winter. So it just makes a lot of sense. And then doing a solar system for this building included, any building or home is really easy. I work with customers all the time that are now going off grid because they're building a high performance home and it's only going to be a 5 or 6 kilowatt solar system in order to run their home. So, versus a standard built house, which now needs a 25 kilowatt solar system. So it's pretty easy to see that if you build it right the first time, you go in, you get your rebates, you get your energy rating on your home for your resellability letter. And then, of course, you will have a home that is more comfortable as well, right? So if it's go thicker walls and a better energy envelope or a better envelope inside the house, you're not going to feel as hot or cold. You're going to be more medium, and the cost of the home is going to be more even over the course of time with less maintenance. So that's been really the main thing that I was trying to share with you here. I really feel that I have a cat crawling up my back. Sorry. One of the things of working from home, right? Okay, so if you have any questions, we'll talk to you at the end. I'd be happy to answer any of them. And I look forward to talking to you later. Thank you. Thanks to everyone for having me here today.
Thanks, Lorena. Really good practical information there. We'd like to introduce a video which was provided to us by Efficiency Manitoba, and they are our second sponsor in addition to Evolve Green for this evening's program.
Hi, I'm Colleen Kurlik, CEO of Efficiency Manitoba. I'm excited to introduce you to Manitoba's newest crown corporation dedicated exclusively to energy efficiency. Our mission is to reduce energy consumption using innovative approaches that respect the environment and lead to economic benefits to all Manitobans. To find out how you can get started, visit us at efficiencymb.ca. We're Efficiency Manitoba, and we can't wait to help you save.
That was Efficiency Manitoba is one of the groups that we work very closely with. So I'd like to ask Jack to turn your camera and microphone on now. Jack Winram is the Executive Director of Manitoba Environmental Industries Association, a role that he's been in for a little over a year now. Jack brings a wide-ranging background from industry, from the regulatory environment, and from government. Jack will moderate our question and answers session for this evening. And we've got the full half hour, Jack, and I've seen a lot of good questions come in. So I turn it over to you, and thank you for your participation.
Yeah, thank you, Randy, and thank you for allowing me to be a partner with MANCIA on this. For those of you who don't know, MIA is the Manitoba Environmental Industries Association, and to make a long story short, we're the sector council for natural resources, energy, and the environment, and as such, we engage with industry, provide awareness, and workforce development. So as it turned out with the pandemic, we started talking with MANCIA about some opportunities in that negative light. They had just had their conference last year canceled because of the pandemic. And of course, as an association, a lot of our programming came to a halt. So getting together with MANCIA, we were able to, as Randy mentioned earlier, discuss some opportunities to join on some webinars that we had last year. And so that really, we've always had a long-standing relationship with MANCIA, but it really strengthened the two organizations. So I think it was really positive that we were able to collaborate together in the face of the challenges that we've had in the past year. So thank you for that. Before I go on, I just want to also recognize Sarah Neal, who's working behind the scenes here, one of the staff members for MIA. She is facilitated the Zoom platform here for everyone today. So thank you, Sarah, for all your hard work. I know Randy mentioned you as well, but I wanted to make sure that that I acknowledged you as well. So with that, MANCIA has asked me to participate by providing some moderation to the Q&A. And so it's some few questions have come in on both the Q&A and the chat. And so I'm going to do my best to just prioritize through the Q&A section and then try to catch what's been coming in the chat as well. I also noticed that our panelists have been very efficient in answering some of these already, but just in the interest of the benefit of everybody who maybe isn't looking through the various chat answers and Q&A answers, I'll ask these questions to the panel. So I'll direct the questions somewhat when they came in to who was presenting, but to all the presenters, whether it be Jacob, Daniel, Kate, or Lorena, feel free to jump in if you want to add something to the discussion. So I'll start with one of the first questions that came in from Ken Clausen. I really like this one. Would you welcome if Efficiency Manitoba or the City of Winnipeg launched a solar ready program to encourage new homes to incorporate simple, no cost and low-cost measures to make the future addition of a PV system easier? I'll put that question to Daniel and Jacob. Hello, Daniel.
You're muted, Daniel.
Oh.
Sorry, I was double muted. My phone was also muted. So
no problem.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. I didn't put a response in the chat there, but for sure we would welcome something like that. But I mean, as far as it being like a program, it should really be part of our building code to incorporate these future ready things for energy efficiency. I gave BC as an example there, and I'm actually from there, so I have a little bit of perspective on this, but working there 15 years ago as an electrician, it was mandated in Vancouver for you to have an EV power at each stall. So you had to have, and that was the city of Vancouver said, if you're building a new high-rise building, we know it's going to be a struggle to do this after the fact. So you got to put power in at each stall in your underground parking for 15 years from now, when half the people here have EVs. And to date, Manitoba still doesn't have anything like that in their code. So solar ready, yeah, a lot of jurisdictions have a mandate for having a conduit already to the roof for being solar ready. I don't think it needs to be a program. I think it should be part of a progressive building code.
Cool, thank you. Next question is from Leah. Can battery backup power work in conjunction with the grid tie system, or does it have to be a separate system? Again, that came in on the Powertec presentation, but I noticed Lorena has put an answer to that as well. But go ahead, Daniel or Jacob.
Yeah, I mean, Lorena probably could, if she wants to come in on it too, she can, but absolutely they can work. It's quite common for, AC or DC coupling of grid tied systems. So Lorena, absolutely, if you got something to add to that, but yes, the short answer is yes. Lorena probably can give you a long answer.
Well, we can do that with already existing systems with AC coupling, but we also have inverters that do it on the front end. So it's one inverter and it does the battery system, and we can do grid assist where we're not even selling to the grid, but just offering the power over there when the battery system and the essential loads are all filled. And then when the power goes out, you still have that solar system running and the essential loads powering, which is amazing, right? So if you have any primary concerns with oxygen machines running in the house or CPAPs or needing the communications and internet to continue running, what have you, to keep your business and or home running. These are really amazing products. So, but it's important to investigate. There is so many options right now. It really is growing phenomenally. Wouldn't you say, Daniel? The amount that is available. Definitely. And the battery technology out there is very different. So in Manitoba, really my go-to is I love carbon batteries. They have a carbon foam around the negative neutral plate or the negative plate of the battery, which gives them better, where they work better in the cold. They absorb the energy faster and they last about 30% longer than traditional batteries, but they are not as explosive and volatile as some of the other options can be. So storage of them is a much easier option as well. If you are going to do something like lithium, there's different types of lithium. And I think it's important to talk to whoever's designing the system about the right battery source out there for you.
Yeah, and I would add, if you're interested in looking what batteries connected to the grid looks like, California has some really, like they're a leader in it because of the wildfires there. They have a lot of battery backup. The utilities will shut down there, so people have taken it upon themselves to install battery backup in California based on those situations. And the requirements for the inverters to be able to react to the grid down there are stricter than anywhere else. So that they're kind of the industry leader in that respect.
Absolutely, I would agree.
So one of the questions, and I'll put this to the entire panel because one of you might know what this is about, but is the Tesla home battery any good? Anybody?
Okay, yeah, so I can
it's
actually.
Great if you can get one.
Yeah, if you can get one. Well, there's been a few changes. I think the average one is a 6 kilowatt right now. I mean, you have to know and understand what it is you're getting. If you can put this in a nicely controlled environmental controlled area, then that's great. So your basement or maybe you heat and insulate your garage, which is fine. Lithium is not great if it's decharging or charging in the cold, so it's not ideal for a lot of different types of installations, but for the right installations they can work very well. And yes, there are some of it that have gone in Manitoba and across Canada, but there are definitely indeed many types of this type of thing out there, so it's important to do some research.
Interesting.
Yeah, the Tesla battery actually is for value is actually a fairly good price. The availability is the issue. Like I've had my name on the list for a Powerwall for a few years now, and I haven't even got a phone call. So
Sorry, and I was going to ask, what is the price?
10 grand, I think is it comes. I think they're 10 grand. Like again, I haven't been able to buy one. I believe the new one is 9,000 something.
Once it's converted, I think you're right, because it's 6,500 in the US and then therefore converted.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyways, I'm on the list. I'm waiting for my call back. It's the response that the website gives you is that they will call you when it becomes available in your area.
Yeah.
So further to
not
that,
very encouraging.
Yeah, so further to that, I do have a battery backup on my home. So I have a split system. I did a solely grid tie 5 kilowatt on my house, but my house has the ability to be off the grid. So I went with an AGM technology. Carbon was too expensive back when I installed my system. So I went with AGM, so it was a no maintenance option. Glass mat battery, which still was a good option for me. I'm on the road a lot, especially in the times when I should be doing maintenance on my battery systems. You know how that goes. But I have 5 kilowatts off the grid, and I can run this house, winter or summer if I need to. And in fact, did for the first 12 months of it being here. And that was just because we actually had to be on a waiting list to get power from Manitoba Hydro at the time when we did this back in 2012. So, it took a year. We needed power. Here we are. So my system's been running amazingly since 2012, which means my system is 9 years old. A lot of people ask about age and how it operates, and I haven't had any major issues. But it is important to know and understand what it is you're buying and how it's going to apply to your situation.
So that's a good segue just to follow up. So is your battery backup, can it work in conjunction with a grid tie system, or does it have to be a separate system?
Yeah, so mine actually could. It could be an AC couple to the back end as such. We've done it for many customers. Mine is actually fairly more split and independent for the reason that I do run my house off grid when I want to. So in other words, it's not just a backup. I utilize the system.
Is that the same for your system at your house, Daniel?
No, my system's a little bit different than that. And we're actually putting one in at our office right now. So if anybody's actually interested in seeing what it looks like to have an AC coupled system, we just installed solar on the roof and are submitting for permitting on the AC coupled storage system. So I would invite, as soon as the restrictions would allow, I would invite anybody who's interested in seeing what battery backup with solar looks like. They'd be welcome to come by our office and have a look, because we have one going in there.
So it always comes down to the almighty dollar and cost. Mike Fernandez has a question, just to have a sense of what scope of investment a homeowner is looking at. What is general range of cost to install a 10 megawatt system in a typical residential installation? How would that compare to other provinces?
Probably the wrong unit, but
yeah, it is.
Yeah, like a 10 kilowatt system. It's going to depend on a lot of factors, but anywhere from $25,000 to $30,000 probably would be a safe range for installed cost.
Well, it depends too if it's a roof mount or a ground mount, right? If we're building the structure under, or if it's in Winnipeg. I guess we should mention Winnipeg has gone to really crazy guidelines. They need to have an electrical engineer stamp on every single solar installation, whether it's one panel or 40. It doesn't matter, which is a little bit crazy. So in order to get 5 amps of solar, you need to have a $1,200 stamp. It really doesn't make sense. The engineers shake their heads. They don't know what it's about, but it costs the individual homeowners in Winnipeg specifically, roughly, we'll say $1,200 to $1,500 more than anywhere else in Manitoba. Now, if we're looking outside of Manitoba, you know, the average roof mount install for a 10 kilowatt, you're going to be in that $26,000 range. And on the ground, you're going to be probably a little bit more because you've got a ground mount and it depends how far away from the power source it's going to be. But that's certainly where you're going to be. If you're looking at a battery system, if you're looking at, like, say, a 22 kilowatt battery backup system with your 10 kilowatt solar system ground mounted, you're going to be in that $44,000 range, but you have lots of movability on how you can use the system. And the return for investment is definitely there if you're a farm or a business.
So, Lorena, you said outside of Manitoba, but you meant outside of Winnipeg in Manitoba.
Outside of
right?
Winnipeg in Manitoba. Thank you. Yeah, true.
So just what do you have a sense of how that might compare to other provinces? Are other provinces cheaper and running away with solar installation?
No. I think
No,
Manitoba is
the only-
probably
the
one of the
only-
cheaper ones. Sorry, go ahead.
The only place where I would say the market for solar has really been driven down is Southern Ontario, because they've had so much of it there for so long. So in in that Golden Horseshoe, in that area there, the solar prices, what systems are going for, not the residential systems, typically those, because of the work administration involved in them, those are pretty constant in price, but the larger systems go for quite a bit less money than they would in other places in that area.
Yeah, so Lorena brought up a regulatory thing, and I'm always laughing at, I don't know if anybody watches Real Time with Bill Maher, and he's always got his daily count up of how many days it's taken to get permits for his solar system. What would it be in Manitoba for, I guess, a time frame? What's the step-by-step regulatory? And forgive me if this is a very loaded question, but where would someone start in terms of regulatory getting permits, and how long would they be looking at?
Do you want to go first?
Either one.
Okay, well, City of Winnipeg, I've been experiencing up to 4 months.
4 months. Okay.
Yeah, this is one area where I would say Manitoba Hydro does a really, really good job, is like the administration of permits and applications. They're quite quick with it. We can usually, like, we sold one, a couple of weeks ago, and we already have permits and the okay to go ahead. It was quite a quick process. The City of Winnipeg, yeah, again, Lorena, we had one that took 6 months, and I ended up having to call a city councillor to start advocating on our behalf to get them to even look at it. So yeah, it can be difficult for sure.
So sorry,
depending on the uniqueness.
So you're looking at getting permits with the municipal authority, and then also through Manitoba Hydro and through their inspection, or is it the technical safety branch that you have to get an inspection?
Yeah, so Manitoba Hydro, Manitoba Hydro takes care of electrical inspections outside of the City of Winnipeg. The City of Winnipeg takes care of their own electrical inspections. So there's different requirements for the electrical portion of the work. You still need an application to Manitoba Hydro to connect to their grid regardless. But as far as the plan review and inspection process, it's much quicker outside of the City of Winnipeg than it is inside the City of Winnipeg.
Interesting. I don't know if there's any more questions coming in. I think we've got, there was one comment about the life of panels being 50 years and inverters are about 32 years. Can one of you comment on that?
Yeah, that was me answering, actually.
Okay.
There was somebody who was asking how long do panels last, is what they actually asked, but really it's a system, right? So, and there's definitely different inverters will last different amounts of time, and it really depends on where it's been installed. But they say 32 years on the inverter life cycle. And then with the solar panels, they have actually a 25-year warranty on the power output, and they can last up to 50 years.
So being with Mia and having contact with all the recycling organizations, so the panels afterward, are they fit for landfill, and I guess batteries could go through the normal recycling programs that the province has?
Well, they're highly recyclable. The solar panels are actually made of glass. So it's tempered glass. There is silicon in there, and there is also silver. So some people want to buy them just to recuperate the silver in them as well. And there's straight aluminum frames on them. So that can also be recycled.
Yeah,
Jack, if
it would be interesting to see. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to, why don't you go ahead, Daniel, if you're going to deal with that last question.
Yeah, I was going to say it would be interesting to see if the electronics recycling depot would actually take solar panels in Manitoba. It would be an interesting question to put to them. So it hasn't come up yet because they're all still working. But there was another question actually here about the environmental standpoint and why bothering switching to hydro.
I was just going to ask that question, Daniel, so you must be psychic.
Yeah, you know, it's an interesting question, and you know, one that gets asked a lot. Actually, it comes up on our company Facebook page all the time. You know, from my standpoint, Manitoba Hydro, you know, and from a larger standpoint, society in general, we need to electrify our cities and produce our electricity with, you know, renewable energy sources, right? So the demand is going to go up if that's the ultimate goal, is to get away from natural gas and fossil fuels. So even though we're overbuilt right now, in the long term, we actually, to take that on, we actually don't have the power. The second point there is that Manitoba Hydro exports a lot of power to places where they still generate with coal and natural gas and other sources. So if you're putting power back on, that's extra stuff they can dump off to these guys in the States. So, I mean, when you think about it locally, for sure, it's probably not doing much to reduce the carbon footprint of Manitobans, but on a larger perspective, you could be reducing the carbon footprint in North America anyway. So that would be my response to that question.
Randy,
but it's an interesting one.
Randy, I see just a couple more questions. One is for Kate, and she hasn't had an opportunity to jump in here yet. Kate, if you had the opportunity to delve deeper into the energy policy development, what is the area that you would look at? What should be the priority for Manitoba as we move forward?
That's a good question. I guess I can talk about, so what I'm researching right now is the way water power licensing works in the province and the extent to which the current legislation allows for the public as well as affected Indigenous communities to participate in the licensing of hydro dams. And the way it is right now, it really does not make space for people to get involved. So I think that's an area that definitely needs to be improved, and that I'm looking forward to looking into further. But in terms of what the priority should be for Manitoba moving forward, I don't know that I could pick one priority, but I think kind of asking the public and the people who are actually using energy and impacted by energy, figuring out what they think are the priorities moving forward, I think is important. So that would be my answer.
Yeah, thank you. And if you allow me, Randy, there's one more question from Dan Mazia. Any work, I guess this goes to anyone on the panel who's might have some information on this, any work on making more efficient solar panels? I guess what is their efficiency now? How far have they come, and where do you think they go? Any technologies coming on that might be interesting to everyone?
Okay, so I'll chime in then on this one. Yes, they're getting more efficient all the time. And I know that I did see a cost of solar. Is it going down or is it going up? What's happening with it? So the efficiency question is, yes, what we were installing 3 years ago was like, say, 260 watt straight polycrystalline panels. But today we can get very, very highly efficient LG like panels that are, you know, they're like 425 watt, 450 watt panels now. And yes, it's a slightly bigger footprint, but we're able to produce a lot more energy in a much smaller footprint now with much less panels employed. So overall, that makes the cost of the system go down, not just because, the cost of each panel is not is steadily going down in the cost per watt. You're easily in that, less than $1 per watt in most cases now for a solar panel, so it's gone down exponentially. Also, the cost of putting them up, if it's like 30% less panels going on the roof, then it's 30% less labor. So it's always
Right.
gonna, yeah. So from that perspective, now for ground mount systems, we have something now called bifacial panels or double glass panels. You may have heard that is essentially 2 solar panels. So in the summer, although I do have some clients trying to put reflective rock and things like that behind their systems to see if it's going to produce more. But usually it's for winter time. Once the snow has hit the ground, the back of the panel, the front might have snow on it, but it's still producing energy from the back because it's getting the glare off of the snow as well. So definitely it's getting better and better every year.
Anyone else on the panel?
Yeah, and I would add that, like, as far as like the actual panel efficiency as well, and like the efficiency of the cells, like they're experimenting with all sorts of new technologies all the time to get higher efficiency panels. But like, that's I'm right here. That kind of stuff is way up here. That's being done by people way smarter than me. So they are definitely working on more efficient panels, and we're reading stuff all the time about newly tested materials that they're using. I do think, though, however, that solar kind of has almost hit that bottom price where it's not really going to get any cheaper because it's really commoditized itself in price now. So you're really paying for kilowatt hours. And if they do develop a panel that's incredibly more efficient, it's going to cost that much more because they realize they're not selling a solar panel, they're selling kilowatt hours, and they're going to sell those at a marketable price. So that's where I stand on that one.
Thanks, Daniel, Kate, Jacob, Lorena. That was great, great discussion, and thanks everyone for all the great questions. I promised Randy that would be the last question, so with that, Randy, I'll hand it back over to you.
Thanks, Jack. Good job of moderating. Good job of moderating. There was one additional question for Kate that just came in. If I can pose this to you, Kate. Did you get much input from the RMs or towns when you mentioned there was a survey being done? Have they contributed much in the way of input?
So the survey was done by Prairie Research Associates, and they just sent it out to like basically like a random sample of people in the province,
right?
Without gathering like their demographic data, like whether they're affiliated with certain RMs or towns. And then our workshop was open to anyone, but we didn't really collect any like affiliations within our registration. So I'm not sure what the breakdown would be.
Right.
But we're hoping to host some sort of follow-up event, maybe in the fall. So when we start planning that, we'll be sure to send out invitations to everyone.
Good, thank you. I know that there are a number of RMs and town councils represented in our audience today, so that's why I thought it would be worth asking that question. It came in from Wayne Digby and Wayne Clayton. So thank you very much, Jack. Thanks, Daniel and Jacob, Kate and Lorena, and Sarah in the background. We appreciate all the work you've done setting this up and keeping us on the right track this evening. I'd like to thank everybody in the audience for attending and your continued interest in sustainable energy. Again, we'd like to thank our supporting sponsor, MIA, Manitoba Environmental Industries Association, our platinum sponsors, Evolve Green and Golden West Communications, and our gold sponsors, Access Credit Union, Manitoba Hydro, Efficiency Manitoba, and Powertec. On the screen, you've also got the names of our basic business members showing, and the organizations that we have reciprocal membership agreements with, which include MIA, MIVA, the Electric Vehicles Association, the Geothermal Association, and Sustainable Buildings Manitoba. Our second session will be 1 week from tonight. We'll discuss the use of biomass resources to dry grain and to heat buildings. That'll be a topic of interest to a lot of farmers, especially corn producers. We're going to have Cam Cornelson from Triple Green Products and Dr. Richard Groshans from the International Institute of Sustainable Development. He's done quite an extensive bit of work on biomass resources, harvesting of cattails and other types of biomass. And then we'll have Clint Pinder from Firewood, Manitoba to talk about the more traditional source, which is firewood. Our third and final session will be in 2 weeks from tonight, April the 6th. And both next week and April 6th will start at 7 p.m. again. And on April 6th, we'll examine some of the more futuristic developments in agriculture. One of the things we'll talk about is powering our agricultural industry with more sustainable and renewable energy. Think of electric tractors, trucks, etc. As GM has announced, they're going much more towards electric power. And think of generating that power from farm-grown biomass feedstocks. Jack Winram will also speak that evening in more depth than he talked about this evening, related to MIA's key initiatives and particularly the growing of the green economy and how we'll make sure that we have the necessary workforce to do that. Last but not least, on April 6th, we'll hold our AGM, our annual general meeting, to share information about what Mancia has been doing over the past 2 years. That's the 2019 and 2020 year. And we'd like to ask for your input into our future plans and priorities. That concludes our evening. I'd like to thank all of our presenters, our sponsors, and you all for attending. We look forward to seeing you again next week and the following week. That's it for tonight. Thank you very much. Bye for now.